But they can pay that, right? They
all
can pay that if they want to keep this dream alive.
Well, what is their dream? I don't know what their dream is. I don't really know what the purpose of LIV is.
Hello, Mark.
Hi, Gabby. Normally when we do this, we've got a list of subjects that we think we've sort of pre-planned that could be on a list to talk about. But I'm just going to throw something in there because I read it on my way up to the studio, and it blew my mind. Which is, have you seen this at the Masters Snooker? So the Masters Snooker is going on at Ali Pali, and it started on Sunday, and all the first round matches have finished. So there's only 16 players who appear in it. So there's 8 first round matches. They have all finished 6 frames to 2. All of them.
I heard this morning on the radio.
And if you'd put money on it, it was 220,000 to 1 that all of them would have finished 6-2. And then the other thing I read is if you'd predicted 6-2 and the winner of each of those games, 20 million to 1.
When you say,
I can't imagine any bookie would have taken
I was about to say, when you say if, I mean, there could be somebody deep in the middle of China right now who's counting the cash.
It absolutely blew my mind when I read that this morning.
Extraordinary. I was about to say, it's good to see you sat still in one place. You've been all over the country this week. I just want to apologise on behalf of Newcastle United fans, because that wasn't compelling sport at times the other night. I was a bit disappointed.
Lost a bit of jeopardy in that semi-final, I think, for the second leg.
Yes,
and we talked about it both nights actually. Such a difference. I know there's too much football, but I do love the 2-legged semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. It's just a bit different, and I'm not saying that because it means I get to present 4 shows rather than 2, but it is. I do like the fact that it's different, and it makes Newcastle in particular, maybe more than any other team, feels like it makes a big difference whether they're home or away in the first and second legs. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And last year they battered Arsenal in the second leg at St James's Park. But this time, the sort of discussion was they didn't really know whether to stick or twist, to go for it against City or make sure they were still in it for the second leg.
And we've had such a good record against City at home of late in recent seasons that I don't understand why we didn't go for it more. And I was just a bit disappointed because obviously we've come through a tricky test in the FA Cup at the weekend, and I felt like we would have had a bit more about us, a bit more belief about us. But on belief, Arsenal still going on 4 fronts and looking very good after their tie against Chelsea. They are. Do you remember we had our match of the day launch thing in that venue? Do you remember back in?
With lots of young people and you, me, and Kelly.
Yes, and
Alan.
And we were asked kind of on the spot, which team we were kind of excited about this season, and you all went for kind of clever, esoteric answers, and I said Arsenal not because I'm an Arsenal fan, but because I just felt like this would potentially be a season that Arsenal could finally get over the line somewhere in a big way. And I have to say, last night, I thought that they play some tremendous football. I know that so much attention on Arsenal is about their set pieces, and and it's been almost seen as a stick to beat them with at times this season. But they are playing some really good football that could take them a long way in all competitions.
They just don't have a weakness, do they? They don't have a weakness. And people will go on about centre-forward and Gyökeres and so on and so forth. But they started with Gyökeres last night. He scored and set one up. They have Havertz on the bench. They have Gabriel Jesus on the bench. And they have Marino on the bench, who came on as a midfielder last night, but they have used as a striker. They have 4 different types of striker there that they can use as and when. Eze didn't get on last night. In fact, Eze's barely played for about a month since making a mistake at Aston
and the week
Villa.
before that, he scored a hat-trick,
Miles Lewis-Skelly appears at the moment to be 3rd or 4th choice left back.
Yeah.
That's
having been first
strong.
choice a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's how strong this squad is, and this will be the first trophy if they get to the final, which you would assume they will at the moment. But this is their first chance to get a hands on a trophy this season. Arteta's only won the FA Cup in his reign so far, and the interesting stat I think when it comes to the League Cup is that 7 of the last 12 winners have gone on to win another trophy in the same season that they've won the League Cup, and it said a lot. It is a platform. It is a platform.
Just before we move on to our main topic today, one of the other sports you present, Rugby League, has had a bit of news. Shaun Wane stepping down as head coach 9 months before the Rugby League World Cup. What's the story there?
I just think he's sat and thought and decided to take a step back. I feel like Shaun Wane's time in charge of England has felt like missed opportunities, really, and every time you've thought go and deliver something for us, it's never quite come off. And I go back to the last World Cup, a home World Cup. The semi-final was against Samoa, and you would have, without taking anything away from Samoa, England would have been favourites for that, and then it would have been a final against Australia at Old Trafford. This isn't their fault, but that semi-final ended up being played at the Emirates, which has not got any rugby league history at all. Is also in London. I don't think it did England any favours. Why you would not play that at Ellen Road or in a rugby league heartland, Wigan or St. It absolutely baffled me. Did that, and they lost, and that felt like a missed opportunity. And then the Ashes series just gone against Australia. Again, felt like a missed opportunity. Like Australia were head and shoulders the better team, but England was so disappointing in those 3 games. Again, the first one at Wembley, 2/3 full. I don't think that helped them. The second one was at Everton's new ground. It was full. It had a real atmosphere to it. The third one was at Headingley, and that had atmosphere to it as well. Some decisions that have been taken by rugby league execs haven't helped, but it just feels like for a man who had so much success at Wigan, really studies leadership and management. He was involved in performance at the Scottish Rugby Union with Shaun as well. Gives a lot of leadership talks. I like him. He's a really impressive guy, but it just does feel like a missed opportunity for him and England. What direction they'll go in now, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, as always, please send your questions in thesportsagents@global.com on email, or you can message us on social media, or you can go via the link in the episode description.
Catch up with all of our past episodes on YouTube, Global Player, or wherever you get your pods. Leave a comment or review when you listen, and hit subscribe and follow so you don't miss any of our episodes.
Next up, has LIV Golf saved its house of cards from falling down, and for how long? After the break, we're going to be joined by host of the Chipping Forecast podcast, Andrew Cotter.
Look, we'll get into the minutiae shortly, Andrew, of who's playing where and what's going on. But as we go into this year, with tournaments now starting again, is golf in a good place or a bad place?
It's in an interesting place. It's in a place that, I don't know, for the last 5 years, men's professional golf has been endlessly fascinating, slightly dispiriting as well, because it's just become such a money grab. Now, golf has always been the sport of big business and has always been sort of essentially this absolutely capitalist sport, but it's become so much about the money that you need something like McIlroy's win at the Masters or the Ryder Cup to really cut through and remind you that, or Scheffler's dominance, that the sport is still there. It's just everyone is so obsessed with the money, where it comes from, how much money there is, this money against that money. And but I suppose, listen, we see it in a lot of sports at the moment, that Middle Eastern money, Saudi Arabian money in particular, is inflating the market, overinflating it. And it becomes a rather greedy, distasteful thing. But the sport at the heart of it all is still what we love.
The first thing I thought, Andrew, when I heard Brooks Koepka was going back, if you like, was why? Why would players? I mean, there's obviously the money is much greater on the LIV Tour. Why are players wanting to come back and play? Is it the coverage? Is it the crowds? Is it the feeling that they're not with their mates? What do you put it down to?
Well, I think Brooks Koepka, each player, if they decide to do this, and there aren't many who can do this through the returning members program, would have their own reasons for doing it. Brooks Koepka has, he had buyer's remorse very early on in going to LIV. They got offered a huge pile of money, and for him it was anywhere between $100 million and $150 million. It was certainly north of $100 million, because he gave that number to the Jake Paul podcast, as one does nowadays. And so there was an awful lot of money, but as soon as he got there, I think he realised that this isn't where I want to be, this isn't where I want to be playing, this isn't the kind of golf
But
I
why?
want to be playing.
Why?
He was,
I mean, what is it about that
Why
golf?
did he come back?
No, what is it about? I don't watch live golf all the time. What's happening there that is not the place that you want to be?
Well, very few people do. It's not. I mean, he only really enjoyed playing in the majors anyway. I mean, coming back to the PGA Tour now, he's going to play in more regular PGA Tour events. But he was all about the majors. And even though he was still able to play in the majors because of his qualifications from being a multiple major champion, I think he missed more serious competition. Now, LIV is serious and good quality competition, but it's a very different product. And he is not an extrovert. He doesn't really buy into that. Few golfers are, but Brooks Koepka in particular is a serious, it takes himself quite seriously as the alpha male of the golfing world. And LIV didn't sit comfortably with him, but he took the money. So now he wants to come back for personal reasons, above all, I think. So he's going to have to make payments back and lose a bit of money. But he's certainly still, when all is said and done and the figures are totted up, he's going to be many, many, many millions in
the
credit.
Fine or whatever it is that they have to pay in coming back is $5 million, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of golfers are not known for their sort of solidarity and teamwork, are they? It's every on the men's tour, every man for himself. Will he be welcomed back in oh yeah, you went off, you got $150 million, we all stayed loyal, we haven't got that, but you paid a $5 million fine, that's it, fine, Brooks, come back. Will there be animosity towards him?
I think there will be a little bit of lingering friction. There was certainly resentment and jealousy for those who went to LIV because they got so much money, and the fact that he's able to come back. However, he's doing so with the blessing of the big boss himself, which is not Brian Rowlap, the CEO. He's doing it with the blessing of Tiger Woods, who's on the player council, and the player council decided this. The board, which has a number of players on it, the board of the PGA Tour, have given it the go-ahead. Basically, what happened was Brooks Koepka, 23rd December, made the approach, said, I want to come back to the PGA Tour. Over Christmas and New Year, it got a little bit delayed, obviously, but then it actually happened quite quickly that Brian Rowlap, who comes from outside golf, he's the new CEO of the PGA Tour, he comes from NFL, and so he just looks at it and says, right, let's make this happen, let's offer this olive branch to Brooks Koepka, and he's come back. Now, Brooks Koepka has been absolutely cold towards all other golfers in the past, but he says that he's going to have to rebuild a few bridges. But I think it is being accepted by the most players in the PGA Tour, perhaps not the rank and file so much, but I think most players are accepting it because it's been given the blessing of the new CEO, but also Tiger Woods and plenty of others as well. So, and to have a big name back, and he's still quite a big name, Brooks Koepka, is only good for the overall product.
And then the question is, I guess, now the door is open and there are ways of coming back. We heard Bryson DeChambeau saying that, he was committed to his contract, which I think goes through to 2026, although James Corrigan in The Telegraph described it as somebody in a dentist's waiting room, the way he delivered that with a lack of excitement about hanging around.
He's the key figure. He's the key figure because the only other three who could come back under this very small window now, it's just over 2 weeks remaining of this returning members program. It was created for the biggest names on LIV. It was created for Brooks Koepka. It's created for him initially, but it only applies to, because of the criteria, you've got to have won a major between 22 and 25 or the Players' Championship. That's Bryson DeChambeau, Jon Rahm and Cam Smith. PGA Tour doesn't care about Cam Smith. Cam Smith doesn't want to come back anyway. He's got a few years left in his contract, or he wants to stay and LIV. He was given $150 million. He's got no interest in coming back to the PGA Tour. Jon Rahm is not going to come back because he's got 3 years remaining on his contract. That was for $300 million or thereabouts. Might have been much more than that.
What did he tell? Sorry. What did he tell Jake Paul? What did he tell Jake Paul? I was going to say, what did he tell Logan Roy? But he's a fictional character in Succession. Nothing to do with this. What did he tell Jake Paul? Anyway, sorry.
So, no, you can do that line again because it's a good line. So hang on a second. Chappers will stop laughing in a minute and I'll do a genuine laugh at your line.
What did he tell Jake Paul?
What did he tell Jake Paul? You. Actually, we spoke to a Spanish outlet and said he's got no interest in coming back either. Bryson DeChambeau is the interesting one because in the strange world that we live in, he has become probably the biggest star in golf, even allowing for Rory McIlroy. Scotty Scheffler does his thing quietly and effectively. Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau would be the two biggest names in golf. Bryson DeChambeau because he's appealing to a whole new market with his YouTube numbers, and because he's just a bit well. Anyway, let's not get into a Bryson DeChambeau episode right here. But he is the big draw. But I don't think he's going to come back. If the PGA Tour were to get him to come back, that's a much bigger deal than Brooks Koepka. Koepka, fine player, but I think his best days are behind him, and he's not quite the name that he was. Bryson DeChambeau very much still is, because he's also tapping into a new market. But it is leverage for him now because he's got this renegotiation of his next contract with LIV, and again reports that he's asking for upwards of 500 million. It's just.
But they can pay that, right? They can
just
pay that if they want to keep this dream alive. They can pay that.
But what is their dream? I don't know what their dream is. I don't know.
That was my next question.
I don't really know what the purpose of LIV is. They've spent over $5 billion so far for a product that's not really being seen, but it's been seen by a few people, and TNT Sports just taken it over, I think, from ITV in the UK. It's appealing to, they say, to a different market, but it's not appealing to big numbers. And people who go there disappear off into the shadows, except for outliers like Bryson DeChambeau, because he's doing his YouTube thing.
Isn't the argument as well a little bit that the PGA Tour is kind of not massively relevant to... You've got to be a proper golf fan to be really into your PGA Tour, haven't you? Do you not think, Andrew? It's hugely important for American broadcasters, CBS, I think, in particular, NBC as well. The PGA Tour is hugely important to them. But maybe the wider golfing public, certainly the wider sporting public, really couldn't care who won the Phoenix Waste Management Open, could they? And as long as you have the big names for the majors and the Ryder Cup, that's what people buy into.
Yeah, it's true, but I would go further and say that golf, despite the fact that it's a hugely popular sport to be played, and absolutely the majors are watched in the Ryder Cup, that it's not that big a sport in terms of consumer numbers. I think in America it is bigger, but it is really, I talked about it being the sport of big business. Someone described it once as a niche sport of big business. Big business gets on board with it, so perhaps the money involved in golf outweighs its attraction as a product, which is why I was fascinated by the SSG, the Strategic Sports Group, getting involved and bankrolling the PGA Tour to sort of enable it to take on the untold wealth of PIF and LIV. This is Fenway Sports Group and John Henry et al. They don't make investments in things that they don't think are going to be successful. So the PGA Tour has a lot of money, carries a lot of weight, and I think the flow is just going back from, LIV was winning, if you can call it that, for a while in its attraction. But at PGA Tour seems to have reasserted itself, having not seen off the threat at all. But I think the threat was necessary for the PGA Tour to give it a bit of shock treatment and said, okay, we have to find a bit more investment, but also readjust and reduce the number of places we have on tour and make things a little bit more dynamic and attractive to the consumers.
Well, what I'd be fascinated by is if Bryson did go back to the PGA Tour, what kind of flexibility they would give him to bring... And I know we could laugh about his YouTube channel, but I quite enjoy watching Bryson's YouTube channel. And, he has a round of golf with Steph Curry or whatever. And it's a really good watch. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, he's following in the footsteps of Tarby and Brucey. But, I mean, it's
around with that.
Well, for younger viewers, there'll be something in the show notes there just to tell you about who they were.
But it would be interesting if he did come back to see what the PGA Tour would allow him to do in terms of bringing it to a different audience.
Well, the whole the whole broadcasting landscape, obviously not just in golf, but everywhere, is changing, and the move towards YouTube is significant, and it's significant in golf. The number of golfing YouTubers, honestly, it's just and Bryson, although a late adopter, has leapt pretty much to the top of things because of who he is and because of the, as you mentioned, the guests who he can command. I mean, playing with the El Presidente. Actually, that makes it sound like he's a South American president, which
it's behaving not dissimilarly. Anyway.
Anyway, the fact that he can get that level of guest on, it's, as far as I'm aware at the moment, and again, so many things I just reported and not confirmed, is that PIF LIV has a share in his YouTube channel, so they have a certain level of.
But is that not in itself?
So that thing becomes significant.
Yeah, and is that not, in a way, is this what they wanted at the very beginning, to have a seat at the table of the establishment, perhaps? And this is a way that they've kind of manoeuvred themselves into a position. If this might be the beginning of, something like the end of LIV's significance. If they can then get themselves at the traditional kind of tables and have a seat there, is that not a decent end game for them?
I honestly don't know what they want. I mean, Yasser Al Rumayyan, who is in charge of LIV Golf and distributing the money of PIF, loves golf, and it might be no more than that. Then he is a big fan of golf and wanted to shake things up. But ultimately, it is, as we go back to the beginning of all these discussions about Saudi Arabian money in sport, it is sports washing. It's normalizing things, and unfortunately, it works because people don't talk. People accept it. People don't talk about where the money comes from, because as long as there is money, people will find a reason to justify their decisions and where that money comes from, and that is the normalization. That is sports washing, and so that I think that ultimately it still has been the goal of LIV Golf. But to talk about it as we're shaking up golf, we're changing golf, we're going to develop and grow the game. I don't think that's in any way true. They're back to 72 hole tournaments now instead of 54. The only difference really is a shotgun start and a bit of music. So I think that the real change in golf probably does come not from LIV, but it comes from YouTube. It comes from people doing what they're doing there. But as you said, Chappers, it's nothing new. It's just a new platform for it. And but it's, as I said, a fascinating time in golf, just a very strange time, and sometimes you have to just dig a little bit deeper to get to the sport that you love, whether it's playing,
it's interesting.
Or whether it's
interesting,
and ignore the cash.
Andrew, one of the topics we might discuss on the episode a little bit later today is looking at what's been going on in Australia and this whole kind of, the razzmatazz around bringing non-tennis players into play with tennis players, which actually has also been done before when you think about kind of pro-ams and things like that, but in a slightly different way. And then reading this morning on the tennis front that we always felt like, Wimbledon's sacrosanct. It'll never have any of these quirky kind of, newfangled ideas to try and attract younger audiences. It's like Augusta. It's traditional and everybody loves that. But reading that Wimbledon has asked the BBC to have a little look at how it presents tennis and to give that some kind of shake-up. And I know I can see your eyebrows raising because you are one of the stalwarts of the Wimbledon coverage in terms of your commentary. But everything we've just said there, nothing is new, really, is it? In terms of, kind of how things are done. It's just being done in a slightly different way to a different audience. So while I've got you, do you think Wimbledon needs something? Does it need a shake-up in the way it's presented to the public?
No, I don't think so.
Go on, blame the dogs. Olive and Mabel have come in right at the...
That's just Mabel, just wandering around. That's what I've been asked to do. I've been asked to do a commentary with a dog alongside me and wearing a silly hat. No, nothing's changed. I don't think nothing changes really, does it? It's still, people just want to see the sport, but I think everybody is, you think if you're standing still, you're falling behind, and sometimes you're not really. It's just that in our day and age, attention spans get shorter, and you want clicks, and you want extraordinary things all the time, and so everyone is in pursuit of that. I mean, the recent match between Kyrgios and Sabalenka was, it was terrible. absolutely terrible and rather pointless, but people are always looking for, just looking for clicks. It's, you get it in commentary now. You're always asked to have a camera on you, and oh, look at these commentators reacting, aren't they so exciting? People click, everything's amazing, everything's incredible, and Gabby's laughing because she thinks maybe I'm just getting old, Gabby. I don't know. Maybe we are. Maybe we are just.
Well, mate, we are a bit. My two penneth, and I have absolutely nothing to do with tennis coverage.
Youngsters don't say two penner.
I know, yeah. That's right. What should I say then? I know, it was just to highlight being very old.
Here's what grinds my gears.
Yeah, it's all very well saying to broadcasters, and I'm not talking about any specific broadcaster, but all broadcasters. Oh, we want you to do this with your coverage of our sport. Well, okay, you need to help as well. You need to think about what access we have to your stats, to your technology, to your data, to access to where we can interview, how we interview, what. And I'm talking, some team sports, they're so protective of data and, I don't know, GPSs or heart rates or whatever it may be. And so you could, as a broadcaster, go, well, give us access to that. That's really interesting. A heart monitor. We've talked about it for so many years in rugby league. Heart monitor on a kicker, just to see what they are going through before they have to, kick a penalty to win a Challenge Cup semi-final or whatever. Right? That's interesting. That's different. But don't be so insular and protective.
Another sport that
that's the problem with all of these.
Andrew and I work on together is Rugby Union, Six Nations, and I don't remember, Cotter, last year in Murrayfield.
I thought you were going to say the boat race there, but,
that wasn't me. That was Balding. We're very different.
Heart rate monitors on the Coxies. Oh, you're not Claire Balding.
And don't you remember at Murrayfield, a player was walking past the studio. When we set up on the studio, I call it studio, but it's pitch side presentation position. Yeah. A player was walking past. We brought him in, and then we got told off by the union afterwards for not putting in an official press request for that player, who was quite happy to come and talk to us in his kit post match when they'd won the game. And so you think, if you can't, if a union can't see the advantage of their players being accessible in that moment like that, then you really know you're up against it to try and revolutionise or do something.
No, but I remember you saying, "God damn it, do you not know who I am?" Balding. We can get any guess we want.
We will end it there. We've got all over the place.
Yeah, but I enjoy those all over the place chats with Cotter.
Yeah. On behalf of me and Claire, thank you for your two penneth, Andrew.
So this idea that when you chat to your mates in the pub or whatever, and you go, I could take a point off him, I could take a frame off him, whatever the sport is. Tennis has put its money where its mouth is.
And this is I don't know what they've called it. The 1 point slam is what they've called it, where they've put amateurs up against the pros that are going to play in the Australian Open. The one thing I would say is the amateurs here, Gabby, I'm right in thinking, are actually good amateur tennis players.
Well, yes, but there's people like celebrity,
Stan after 8
broadcasters.
pints.
There's a jockey who's been doing this. So they're people actually have been quite well known. They're not just like, oh, you on row 3. It's not a pantomime. Come on out, and we've got some trainers for you. And
then they then play 1 point against some of the biggest names in the game.
Yeah. So Jannik Sinner, Carlos Alcaraz, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, they've all been playing, and actually some of them really kind of getting quite serious about this as well. So Jordan Smith beat world number 2 Jannik Sinner and world number 4 Amanda Anisimova, and Sinner's serve was out, by the way. That's how he got the point there. And so he's won a lot of money. He said he's going to invest it or buy a property with his girlfriend, and it's a huge deal, isn't it, to go and line up against these people or face these people across the net,
Well, and also, not like face them across the net in a local tennis centre or something, but face them across the net in front of a crowd and fellow pros watching. And also with the added determination of the pros to try not to be the one to lose against some normal person who's come out of the crowd.
While also not injuring themselves ahead of one of the biggest tournaments of the year.
Yeah. But at the same time, the prize money here, $1 million Australian dollars is actually more than the quarter-finalists get. I think I read that, which is mad.
And of course, it's all in a kind of vein of jazzing up big events that we've seen becoming ever more popular. In New York, we had these mixed doubles pairings that were, not in the normal kind of vein of competition. They hadn't come through as is the normal way with the mixed doubles, and so you had these celebrity pairings, if you like, in terms of Emma Raducanu with Carlos Alcaraz and that kind of thing going on. And we've always felt, haven't we, that Wimbledon, being one of the most traditional sports events, sporting kind of occasions in the world, next to, say, Augusta, in terms of retaining their heritage and their traditions, would never do anything like this. And the tennis kind of experts we've spoken to over the years, the last couple of years, have always said, Wimbledon will stay very much to its core and its whites and its traditions and its quiet please and no music and all that kind of thing. So interestingly, this morning I was reading today that Wimbledon has said to the BBC, your coverage is safe in terms of we want you to keep covering the tournament, but we want to look at ways of making it more attractive to younger audiences, which is something you and I hear all the time in terms of making things more attractive to younger audiences.
Just to give you some context of making things attractive to younger audiences, I joined the BBC in 1996 as a continuity announcer because they wanted a northern voice, right, to appeal to everybody north of Watford. So 30 years ago, but also to be the voice of Friday night's Comedy Zone on BBC Two because they wanted to attract younger viewers with their... So 30 years ago, it was about attracting younger viewers. Nothing has changed.
No.
I joined Radio 1 in 1999. Oh, we need to get younger... I wasn't brought in to get younger audiences at radio. We need to get younger audiences. We need to get 5 Live in 2002. We need to get younger... Honestly, it's all
Which
the time.
reflects the chat we just had there with Andrew Cotter, doesn't it? That it's been forever thus. I guess it's the different platforms that it's going on to as well. It will be interesting to see what happens. I mean, I'm talking about the BBC as if I don't work for them, but it would be interesting to see what happens to Wimbledon's coverage and how it evolves. Personally, there are certain things, and I think Andrew alluded to this, that I quite like knowing. I quite like the certainty of certain things that we have in the sporting landscape when so much is changing. But maybe I'm just an old dinosaur, chappers.
But I think that there's a happy medium. You can have the tournament as it is and not change anything and be pure. And you mentioned the Masters when we were talking to Andrew, and that is obviously a pure tournament. You're not even allowed
your
to
phone
run
on the course.
They'll have your phone on. That's pure. But in the build up to it, they have a drive, chip, and putt contest with the best young golfers. I don't know I think all under 18, if memory serves. Best young golfers who have qualified to get there. And they have that for a couple of days. Then they have that par 3 tournament on the Wednesday where it's the golfers and some of the old ones come back, and kids and wives and partners and parents
girlfriends
and whatever. And some of One Direction every year, I think, as well. And it's great. It's great. So if events can have stuff in the build-up that get eyeballs on it and get interest in it, that then hopefully...
And maybe with Wimbledon, obviously the planning permission, I think the last time I read, has now been granted to take over Wimbledon Park. They've been able to kind of get some kind of assurance that they're able to develop there, because what they want to do is bring the qualifying on site, because at the moment it's at Roehampton. And maybe it's because that's what happened in New York, wasn't it? It was the week before that this stuff happened. So maybe it's the time around the major tournaments where they can get those kind of interest in. I mean, Wimbledon, even with its tradition, I've noticed going as I do a few times a year, there's a massive emphasis on influencers going there. You see the big brands inviting influencers to get those eyeballs on it, and then that gets the digital footprint, if you like, of the. I mean, look, I'm talking like somebody that knows this kind of thing. I have no idea what I'm saying, but the digital footprint.
That's why I haven't been invited. That's why I'm never invited. I'm just not an influencer.
Mark would say, I can come, but I'll have to draw you a picture later.
I'll bring my I'll talk about things to attract younger. I'll bring my Etch-a-Sketch with me, and we'll see where we end up.
Anyway, it's interesting times in the world of Pro-Am, I think you call it, wouldn't you? And winning $1 million to take a point off Sinner. Well done, you, Jordan Smith.
Well done, you. Get in touch with us on email, sportsagents@global.com, message us on social media or via the link in the show notes.
And remember, past episodes are available on YouTube, Global Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we'd love you to subscribe or follow and leave a review. Thanks for listening.
The Sports Agents
with Gabby Logan and Mark Chapman.